So are we laughing yet? Remember, enlightenment is what? Lightening up. Let's get with the program here. So let's lighten up a little bit. Okay, we're light. Let's get even lighter. Let's get enlightened and do our mindfulness exercise and get in the right mind frame for the talk that is about to come. Anybody here say grace before dinner when they were kids or even now praying? You ever hear that prayer for the food that we were about to receive? May the Lord make us truly grateful. Well, what is gratitude but openness to receiving? And so what we do when we do this little mindfulness exercise is to open ourselves up to receiving whatever wisdom or lack of it there is to be shared with you during our time together. All right, so let's sit in a comfortable position, upright position. Get your spine straight. Abdomen can expand without constriction. Eyes are open. And begin by shifting your attention away from the mind noise, away from the thoughts, away from the chatter, just to the feeling of your breath coming in and out, without influencing or controlling in any way. Just pay attention to the breath, follow the breath, coming in and going out. And if thoughts try to intrude, try to grab your attention again, simply acknowledge that they're there. Don't entertain them, don't resist them, just acknowledge them. And consciously, deliberately shift your attention back to the feeling of the breath coming in and out. Allowing the breath to be the dominant feature of your field of awareness. And now, as you continue to feel the breath coming in and out, I want you to take the two fingers on one of your hands, either one, and just touch yourself lightly right in the center of your chest, right over your heart. Just to feel that spot, just to stimulate it a little bit so you know what you're going to be focusing on as you continue to breathe in and out. And if you can now feel that spot without needing to touch it with your fingers, just let your hands rest gently again wherever they were. And now imagine that the breath is coming in directly through that spot over your heart. And then as you breathe out, that the breath is going out directly through the spot over your heart. So it's as though you're breathing in and then breathing out directly through your heart. And just enjoy that. Rest in it. Rest in that attentive breath. And notice. Notice if just by putting your attention on your breathing, putting your attention on your heart, that your breath has become any slower, fuller, deeper. And now see if you can expand that feeling of presence, expand your field of awareness beyond that little spot over your heart to include more and more of your body, of your inner body, of your energy body. Feel the presence, feel the spaciousness of more and more of your body. So feeling that sense of presence expanding up towards your neck and head, including your neck and head, and up towards your shoulders and down your arms to your hands, and including that presence in your field of awareness. and moving around your ribs to your back and spine, and including that in your field of awareness, and moving downward towards your abdomen and hips and buttocks, and down your legs to your feet, and including that, so that perhaps you can feel the presence, feel the volume, feel the spaciousness of your entire body, feeling your body not as dense matter, but rather as tingling energy. Feel the vibration that you're raising as you become more and more aware, as you include your body in that sense of presence. And now see if you can expand that breathing that you're doing now through that spot over your heart. See if you can imagine that your breath is coming in and moving out through your entire body simultaneously, as though your whole body is breathing, contracting and expanding in synchrony with the universe. And now expand your awareness even more to include the phenomena, the experiences that are occurring right now in this moment around you. Let your sight rest on the objects in your field of vision. See these objects as much as possible without label, without concept or judgment, just seeing them in their isness, in their suchness. Listen to the sounds that may be occurring around you right now, hearing them as just pure sound without label or judgment. Feel the sensations on your skin, the clothing touching your body, the seat underneath you, the floor beneath your feet, the clothing, the warmth or coolness, the dryness or moisture of the air around you. Or maybe there's a gentle movement in the air, caressing your skin. Experience any aromas that may be in the air around you, or the lingering flavor of something you may have recently eaten or drunk. Experience all of these senses simultaneously, purely, without categorizing, without conditions, without filtering them through concepts or judgments. And ask yourself, where does the object you're looking at end and your seeing of it begin? Where does the sound you're listening to end and your hearing of it begin? Where do the tactile sensations you're experiencing now end and your feeling of them begin? Where do the aromas and flavors end, your sensing of them begin? As you continue to feel the breath coming in and out through your heart or your entire body. And where is this boundary between inside and outside? Is there a boundary, or is that boundary just an artificial creation of the thinking mind, just an illusion? And as you become more and more present, that boundary disappears, dissolving into emptiness, allowing those boundaries to disappear, dwelling in the space between the thoughts, and experiencing what you truly are beyond name, beyond form, beyond concept, beyond judgment. Becoming the breath, becoming the body, becoming all of the sensations you're experiencing right here and now. And understanding this is mindfulness, this is waking up. Awakening from the dream of the thought world of the ego mind. Fully attentive to what is in this moment. Now let's move on to our talk and our activity and our discussion, our sharing. Let's see if you can keep part of your attention on the feeling of the breath coming in and out, your inner body, and the other sounds that may be occurring even as I'm talking. So yoga says, wow, that was much material for meditation. Actually, it wasn't. It was actually letting go of material. It was actually letting go of thoughts and just opening yourself up and making yourself more permeable to what is, which is what meditation is all about. Tamna says, that was really good. Well, I'm glad that you liked it. I hope that you're a little more enlightened now and can take that with you and use it as much as possible, anytime and every time you think of it during the course of the day. Yes, thank you, Lust, or Lust, as they would say in German. Yes, that mindfulness exercise is an exercise in joy, in opening up to the joy that is within us and all around us, because truly there is no difference, there is no boundary, right here in this moment. All we have to do is shift our attention away from the thoughts. Yoga asks, is this a Korean meditation? No, it's a meditation that I kind of developed from a number of different sources. It's the actual exercise that goes along with my Dharma talk about how enlightenment is as simple as ABC. I wanted to talk today about something exciting that has happened in the past few days. Actually, it was last Thursday. My friend and one of my Aikido students, Sergio, brought back to me my EEG biofeedback system, which had kind of broken down. Well, not kind of. It broke down. It was not operating. He had said that he would work on it to try and fix it because it was a computer problem rather than a hardware problem. I gave him the system back about 1.5 years ago. Every time he'd see me at class, he'd say, oh, I'll get to it, but I was without my system for over 1.5 years. Tomnaz asks, wow, do you use that when you meditate? No, I don't. I use it to treat people, or I have used it. I haven't used it for a while now, but I was using it. I've been using that particular system since 1996 to treat people with neurological and psychological disorders. It's actually a therapeutic technique. My friend Sergio brought the system back, was trying to fix it, and we even called the psychologist who developed the system to try and get it fixed, and he couldn't help us. So Sergio was unable to fix my EEG system. However, the side benefit of his bringing it back was that I also had on that same computer another type of biofeedback device called heart math. It measures anybody here familiar or unfamiliar with biofeedback? Basically, biofeedback measures different body parameters, physiological markers like skin temperature and muscle tension and skin conductance and blood pressure and heart rate and EEG, and it uses a computer program to feed that information back to the user so that it shows exactly what the person is doing or what level is being expressed at that moment, so that by being aware of whatever level you're at, you can change it. Just that awareness allows you to change it. So, for example, person has headaches and they come to a biofeedback practitioner. The biofeedback practitioner might use what's called EMG, muscle tension biofeedback, and put a sensor on the forehead and maybe put a sensor on the jaw and maybe put a sensor on the trapezius muscle, the one in back of the shoulder, which are all muscles that are involved in tension headaches, and then would take a reading, a real-time reading, and show the person exactly how tense, and the unit of measure that's used is microvolts, and how many microvolts of tension the person is putting out at that moment. And just by watching the screen and setting up a simple game, the person can learn how to consciously relax those muscles so that eventually they don't create their own headaches anymore. It's a wonderful tool for any therapist. So it's kind of like holding up your physiology to a mirror mirror so that you can see. You know, if you walk around on a bad hair day and you don't have a mirror to look into, you won't know how to fix your hair so that people don't look at you and go, ah! So biofeedback is like that mirror. So anyway, that's a long way around to tell you that I got back my heart rate variability biofeedback system. And that is really the coolest thing. Tomna says, animals have instincts, humans have biofeedback. Yes, that is true. Humans are self-aware and self-reflecting. Animals don't have that self-reflective capacity, or at least, we can't observe whether they have it or not. And so if an animal was having a bad hair day and didn't look in the pool of water to see how bad it was, they wouldn't be able to fix it. Okay, yes. Thomas says, just talking jive. That's fine. These Dharma talks, I like to be interactive, and I also like to be fun. So if we're not having fun, we shouldn't be here. As Jack Canfield, that success guru, says, if it ain't fun, don't do it. So anyway, I got back my heart rate variability system. So I started using it again, and as I was using it, I thought, wow, and I hadn't thought about it this way before, but I said, wow, this is like an enlightenometer. This particular parameter, what's called heart rate variability, and I'll explain that in just a moment, but it really is a very sensitive measure of how present you are and how out of the stress-oriented, ego, mind, thought-dominated consciousness you are. And so it's a real good tool to use, kind of gauge yourself if, you're having trouble. So what this does, a heart rate variability, well, what heart rate variability is the interval or the change, the rate of change of the interval between heartbeats. That may sound like a mouthful, but basically, let's say somebody measures your heart rate, or you can do it yourself. You put your finger on your wrist and you take your pulse and you time it for 15 seconds and you count how many pulses and then you multiply it by 4 and then you get however beats per minute your heart is beating at, okay? So let's say your heart is beating at 60 beats per minute. That would seem to imply that your heart is beating at 1 beat per second, and that there is exactly a second between each heartbeat. But in actual practice, in reality, that's not the case. The interval between heartbeats is always varying. And depending on how stressed or how relaxed we are, it varies in either a chaotic way or in a coherent way. And so what this meter does is it reads your heartbeat, and it has an algorithm in the program that calculates the average of the change. Not the average of your heartbeat, but the average of the change in that interval between each heartbeat, and then measures whether or not it's expanding and contracting at a very smooth rate, or if it's kind of jumping up and down very chaotically. So if it's expanding at a smooth rate, if the heart rate variability is what's called coherent, what that means is that, say, the heart is beating at the first beat, there's a second interval. Then maybe the next beat is a 1.1 second interval, 1.2 second interval, 1.3 second interval, and then it may go down to 1.2, 1.1, 1, 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, and then go back up, 0.9, 1, 1.1, and it goes up and down very regularly and smoothly. Whereas when your heart is not coherent, when you're in a state of stress, when you're in a state of separation, that interval varies very chaotically. So you may have a second, and then you may have a second and a half, and then you may have half a second, and then you may have 1.1 seconds, and then you may have 0.8 seconds, and then you may have 1.7 seconds, and etc. And you can see this right on the computer screen, and it creates a graph. And when the heart rate is in the stressful mode, the variability is in stressful mode, you get a graph that looks like chaos, kind of like the stock market graphs, jumping up and down with spikes and valleys, etc. But when the heart rate is coherent, you get a beautiful sine curve, just this beautiful up and down sine curve that only varies maybe between 3 and 4 beats per second. So maybe your heart is shifting between maybe 58 and 58 and 62 beats per minute, and that interval is moving up towards the high point and then down towards the low point in a very, very smooth and gradual way. So it's a wonderful tool, and it's something that I've started now just in the 5 days since I got it back. I've been using it again several times every day. So has my wife, and so has my mother-in-law, who's been visiting with us, and just seeing how coherent we can get our heartbeat. And the whole point of that practice is that you use that system to learn how it feels to be in this coherent state. So it's kind of like training wheels on a bicycle. You use the training wheels to allow you to feel that sense of balance, being able to balance on a bicycle while it's moving. But once you achieve that sense of balance, then you don't need the instrument anymore. You've got it, and you can remind yourself to get into that state whenever you want during the course of your day, which is what mindfulness is all about. You know, mindfulness is simply meditation in action. Mindfulness is bringing that centered, balanced, permeable, open, expansive state of mind that we sit in meditation to develop, and bring it out into the marketplace, bring it into our daily activities. So, Red asked a question, have you used it also during a meditation? What I've done, Red, is when I use it, I will do this meditation, this same ABC meditation or mindfulness exercise that I use, that I do at the beginning of the Dharma talks. If enlightenment is as simple as ABC, is as simple as shifting your awareness, shifting your attention away from the thoughts, letting the thoughts fade into the background, not trying to resist them, not trying to push them away, but simply shifting your attention to what's going on right now, your breathing, the feeling of your inner body, and the sights, sounds, touches, tastes, and smells that are going on around you, seeing, hearing, feeling them in their suchness. That practice puts you in a state that then this biofeedback instrument can measure and show you, yeah, you're right on the money, you're right on the beam, you're in alignment. So it's a neat little device, and like I said, I'm really excited about getting it back. So anyone have comments, questions? Tomness says, do you go for the high score? Well, that's a funny thing about biofeedback, and that means any biofeedback, is that the harder you try, the worse you do, because enlightenment or just relaxation is effortless. In fact, during our biofeed, when I was doing EEG biofeedback, and using the conventional system, which is basically playing a game where a person gets reinforcement, gets special tones, sounds, and lights on the computer screen when their brain waves go into the balanced state. And the people would ask me, my clients would ask me, well, what am I supposed to do to get that reinforcement? I'd say, well, the thing you are not supposed to do is try. There's only two things that you can do, and that is to relax and just pay attention to the screen. That's it. Because if you try, that trying is the problem. That trying is the problematic brain waves that are keeping you from being able to de-stress. Okay, so we call it, yes, Mikey, it is ego. Mikey says, it's ego, is it not? And yes, the ego is the source of all stress. It's the ego's need for control and resistance to what is that creates stress. Stress is not an event, it's a reaction, because you can have the exact same event occur to two different people and they will react totally differently. Stress is a choice. So anyway, we used to call it passive volition, which is a kind of strange way of saying just surrendering or letting go. But, biofeedback people are scientifically oriented to come up with some fancy scientific sounding name for something that common sense would tell you is just letting go. It's funny, on my way back here, I just dropped my mother-in-law off at the beach, and on my way back I was thinking about this Dharma talk and about science. And, there's a lot of good things about science, but essentially, science is just a feeble attempt that the ego uses to try to understand the mind of God. And the mind of God cannot be understood. It can only be experienced. And how do you experience it? By stopping trying to understand it and letting go. Thank you, Talon. Yes, by letting go and understanding. Yoga says mind of God, mind of Buddha. It's just a shorthand label that I use for universal consciousness. Buddha mind, universal consciousness, divine spirit. Take your pick. It's just a label, and we do our best not to get attached to labels here. Well, there is no confusion between Buddha and God. Yoga says, let's not confuse Buddha and a God. I don't see any point of confusion, just labels. Gilbert says what each person's belief is. Yes, and actually the whole point that the Buddha was teaching, that Jesus was teaching, was to go beyond belief, to experience. I don't care what you believe, because belief is just belief. It's just thoughts. And thoughts are exactly what is keeping us separate from realizing our Buddha nature, our Christ consciousness, our divinity, our universal consciousness. Again, label, whatever you want to call it. But you experienced what that was just a few minutes ago when we were doing that mindfulness exercise. That's what I'm talking about. Any other comments, questions, discussion? Okay, Yoga says God equals Buddha is not right. Not right for whom? Okay, I'll get to you. Okay, Meme, I'll get to you in a moment. Tamnaz, I'll get to you in a moment. Okay, and yes, the Buddha was not a god. Yoga says there's a Pali Canon. It is said there, did not Buddha say that he was not a god? Yes, correct. He said he was not a god. I am not a god. However, I am just using the word God as a shorthand or a label to describe that level of consciousness that the Buddha attained, or realized, not attained. There's nothing to attain. So that's all that I mean by that. For the layperson, for the non-professional, heart rate variability, and especially for somebody who's spiritually oriented and who does meditation already or has some spiritual practice, this is the best way to go. This is literally opening up the heart chakra. Heart Math, the name of the program is Heart Math, Heartmath. So, any other comments? Meme, sorry to throw water on the talk. Meme, remember, the Dharma is a fire that is inextinguishable. So, don't worry about it. Talon says, animals are not self-realizing. All right, do you want me to comment on that? Because I can. I can't give you any proof, but I can just give you my opinion. Well, Carl Jung, had a famous saying. He said that in human life, we move from unconscious perfection to conscious imperfection to conscious perfection. And what he meant was that when we were born as infants, we are whole, complete, perfect, and connected, okay? But we're not aware of it, and that's where the problem comes in. The problem comes in, as I've mentioned in previous talks on the continuum concept, is that when we don't receive the right treatment, when we don't feel attached to our parents through the proper physical contact with them, we start to experience the sense of separation, which is experienced as anxiety, and we create an ego, we create a structure in our mind to deal with that sense of anxiety and to create the strategies whereby we can act on the world to get us the things that we think we need to get rid of that anxiety. But we can't ever get rid of that anxiety by getting things from the outside world. So that's why we move from unconscious perfection into conscious imperfection. Conscious imperfection means being ruled, being dominated by the ego and its belief systems and its fears and its inappropriate behavior strategies. And then we hear or sense that there's something more, there's something missing. And so we start to search for it. And some of us find some spiritual practice, some spiritual beliefs. And many of us practice and practice and practice. And eventually we get back to that feeling of perfection again, which could be considered enlightenment. But we do it consciously. We're aware now that we are perfect and always were. So animals don't have that ability to become conscious of their own nature. However, animals don't go through, except animals that are in close association with humans, animals are unconsciously perfect at their level. They don't have to form an ego. Animals don't have egos. They don't experience anxiety. They don't experience depression. They don't experience hostility. Yes, they do. Crystalina says, yes, they do. Yes, they do what? Well, my point is that animals are comfortable in their own skins, whatever they're feeling. Okay, Tomna says have hostility. No, animals have aggression, like lions. they go out and they hunt other animals. But they don't hunt other animals and kill other animals because they hate them. They kill them because that's what they do. That's their nature. So, okay, Delaney says, my dog's grieved for our other dead dog. Yes, absolutely. Grief is a perfectly natural emotional response, and animals as well as humans have it. But animals don't get depressed. They grieve, but they don't get depressed. They're aggressive, but they don't hate. They have fear, but they're not anxious. Well, Delaney says cats get pissy, but you have to understand, who do cats hang out with? I'm talking about animals in the wild who have not had a great deal of contact with human beings, because we human beings, most of us, are in the conscious conscious imperfection stage, and so animals that are in close contact with us pick that up. But animals in the wild, I believe, are comfortable in their own skins, and yes, they do have emotions. Of course they do. They have fear, but they don't have anxiety. They have grief, but they don't have depression or despair. You ever hear of elephants committing suicide because they can't bear it anymore? Right, they grieve and then the meme says they grieve and then they let go. Exactly. Animals experience emotion appropriate to the external situation, and then they let it go. It's only us humans, it's only our egos that won't let go. So, like I said, that's just my opinion. Okay, Talon says, I think they grieve to death. Who grieves to death? People or animals? Animals and some people. Okay, well, I'm talking general principle here, that animals are in that state of unconscious perfection, that they are comfortable in their own skins to a much greater extent than we humans are. But they're not self-reflective. They experience emotions, but I don't know that they're aware that they experience emotions. And then you look at Buddhist teachings and how rare human birth is, and the principles of reincarnation, and I don't want to go into a big dialogue on reincarnation here, but how consciousness wants to reincarnate as a human. All sentient beings that are non-human want to reincarnate as a human, because only in a human body with a human consciousness can you attain enlightenment. Can you restore your connection with your true nature, with your Buddha nature. And again, that's the Buddha's opinion. So you can believe what you want, but the most important thing is go beyond beliefs to experience. Wake up from the dream of beliefs, and then it doesn't matter what you believe. You're just awake. Spirit Warrior says, whales tend to sing the same songs of last year before they sing new songs when they return to their hunting grounds. Some have said it's reflective of self-awareness and into the present. Yeah, whales may be self-reflective. Dolphins. I know of one spiritual teacher who teaches that we have two kinds of highly conscious beings on this planet. One are human beings, which are terrestrial, and then we have whales and dolphins, which are aquatic. But that whales and dolphins are just as sentient, just as aware, and just as able to realize their true nature as human beings are. Again, this is getting really off point here to go into this discussion and debating the pros and cons. But let's say that just by becoming present, it doesn't matter what you believe in. And that was the essence of the Buddhist teaching. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. So are we still breathing? Are we still feeling our inner body? Are we still aware of all the sights, sounds, touches around us? Then this was a good talk, a good time together.